Hey, survivors. Welcome back to season 2. So, if you tuned in for our last video, you know that we are in a shift here. We have been in survival mode all year long, but now we're in a new chapter, and in this one, we thrive. Now, survival and thriving are two very different states, and the tools that you need for success in each of these seasons is unique. Survival is continuing to live or exist, especially in spite of danger or hardship. The similar term listed is staying alive. Survival mode is basically a state of just trying to make it. Been there, done that. Blessed to have made it to the other side. In contrast, the Oxford Dictionary defines thriving as a state of growing or developing vigorously, prospering, or flourishing. Growing vigorously, flourishing. Now that's what I'm talking about. So I'm blessed that God has begun to direct me to this very specific messages that are going to support my season of thriving. And I'm excited to share them with you. So, in the last episode of season 1, we talked about taking the L. I shared with y'all that sometimes we take the L to position us to operate in the purpose or capacity that God has assigned us to. Well, just like your favorite sitcom, I'm going to pick up season 2 right where we left off. So our text for today comes from Esther chapter 1. I'm going to read the whole thing, y'all. So rock with me for just a minute. And you know there's names in here, so we just going to try to make it. These events happened in the days of King Xerxes, who reigned over 127 provinces stretching from India to Ethiopia. At the time of Xerxes' rule, his empire from his royal throne at the fortress of Susa. In the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all his nobles and officials. He invited all of the military officers of Persia and Media, as well as the princes and nobles of the provinces. The celebration lasted 180 days, a tremendous display of the opulent wealth of his empire and the pomp and splendor of his majesty. When it was all over, the king gave a banquet for all the people, from the greatest to the least, who were in the fortress of Susa. It lasted for 7 days and was held in the courtyard of the palace garden. The courtyard was beautifully decorated with white cotton curtains and blue hangings, which were fastened with white linen cords and purple ribbons to silver rings embedded in marble pillars. Gold and silver couches stood on a mosaic pavement of porphyry marble, mother of pearl, and other costly stones. Drinks were served in gold goblets of many designs, and there was an abundance of royal wine, reflecting the king's generosity. By edict of the king, no limit were placed on the drinking, for the king had instructed all of his palace officials to serve each man as much as he wanted. At the same time, Queen Vashti gave a banquet for the women in the royal palace of King Xerxes. On the 7th day of the feast, when King Xerxes was in high spirits because of the wine, he told the 7 eunuchs who attended him, Mehuman, Bista, Barbona, Bigtha, Abtha, Zoxar, and Carcass, to bring Queen Vashti to him with the royal crown on her head. He wanted the nobles and all the other men to gaze on her beauty, for she was a very beautiful woman. But when they conveyed the king's order to Queen Vashti, she refused to come. This made the king furious, and he burned with anger. He immediately consulted with his wise advisors, who knew all of the Persian laws and customs, for he always asked their advice. The names of these men were Karshina, Shethar, Admatha, Tarish, Marcina, and Mimicon, 7 nobles of Persia and Media. They met with the king regularly, and they held the highest positions in the empire. What must be done to Queen Vashti? The king demanded. What penalty does the law provide for a queen who refuses to obey the king's orders? Properly sent through his eunuchs. Memucan answered the king and his nobles. Queen Vashti has wronged not only the king, but also every noble and citizen through your empire. Women everywhere will begin to despise their husbands when they learn that Queen Vashti has refused to appear before the king. Before this day is out, the wives of all the king's nobles throughout Persia and Media will hear what the queen did and will start treating their husbands the same way. There will be no end to their contempt and anger. So, if it pleases the king, we suggest that you issue a written decree, a law of the Persians and Medes that cannot be revoked. It should order that Queen Vashti be forever banished from the presence of King Xerxes, and that the king should choose another queen more worthy than she. When this decree is published throughout the king's vast empire, husbands everywhere, whatever their rank, will receive proper respect from their wives. The king and his nobles thought this made good sense, so he followed the Memucan's counsel. He sent letters to all the parts of the empire, to each province in its own script and language, proclaiming that every man should be the ruler of his own home and should say whatever he pleases. Whew! Now, first of all, y'all know me, I can butcher up some names, but we made it through. So that was Esther chapter 1, all verses. So let's go. Season 2, episode 1, the title, Taking L's in the Name of Boundaries. King Xerxes liked to party and have a good time. That much is quite clear in our text. His wife, Queen Vashti, it seems, enjoyed a good party as well. As we find in our text, after living it up, King Xerxes decides that he is going to order his wife to parade in front of these drunken men, and homegirl says, nope, I'll pass. So let's sit with this for a second. Vashti is the queen. She's beautiful. She has all of the things. And when her husband, the king, requests that she does something that she is uncomfortable doing, despite who the request came from, despite the possible repercussions of her actions, despite who is around to hear it, Vashti lets her no be her no. In order to flourish and grow in this next season, you, and by you I mean me, are going to have to set some boundaries. I had a beautiful conversation with a friend recently who brought to the forefront of my mind that many of my frustrations are self-imposed due to a lack of boundaries in some areas of my life. When we really drilled down and discussed it, I came to the realization that many of the expectations of me that I try to think are imposed by others are really self-imposed. It's not them, sis. It's me. So here's the thing about boundaries. Check this out real quick. The boundaries aren't for them either. They are for you. And in order to thrive, we must establish boundaries that correspond not just to who we are, but who we desire to be and who Christ says that we are. This is hard work, y'all. You have to know who you are. Remember that identity statement to know what you will allow. And guess what? Sometimes when we set those boundaries, we're also going to have to take some L's. Now, here's the unique thing about this message, y'all. We don't know what happened to Vashti after she was dethroned and banished. So this really isn't one of those if-then type of things. But her no was still her no. Furthermore, if we want to really get honest, Vashti was replaced by Esther, who went on to be positioned to save the Jews. So we can't even be mad at homegirl for scooping up Vashti's dude because Esther was solid. But Vashti's no was still her no. Are you willing to lose your seat at the table to keep yourself? Are you willing to give up being relevant to be authentically you? I listened to a sermon the other day where they said that these days everybody gets to be a queen. And y'all know she wasn't lying. But here's the thing. Just because you have a crown doesn't mean that you're worthy of honor. Y'all, I thought these thriving messages were going to be cute, easy, fun. But these things go hard. Take the L, set the boundary, but then pick up your heavenly crown. Now, I'm not going to lie, I really am hoping that these messages get a little easier to digest. Because, baby, this thriving thing takes work. But I'm here for it. And I'm glad you're here rocking with me. And I'll see you guys next time here on the Survival Guide.